we passed the first comprehensive federal criminal justice reform since 1970 called the First Step Act. And the First Step Act was amazing, and it's given us tools to help get people out using what's called compassionate release. And so when we were at the White House celebrating this, I realized that although this law we passed is amazing, it doesn't directly benefit those who are in there for purely cannabis cases.
How are you? Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
For sure. I'm excited to hear your story and how you got started on this mission and where it's
headed. The light's better over here.
Were you from Utah?
Yeah, I'm originally from Utah.
Okay. Nice.
So, born and raised, but I've lived other places, lived in California, lived in Tennessee, moved around a bit when I was younger.
Okay. And you're back in Utah?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm from Wyoming originally, and I feel like I'm hooked here. Every time I talk to somebody and they're like, well, we're going to go up to the mountains to camp. That's why we love where we live. And I'm like, no. You don't have mountains. We have mountains.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Anyways, well, cool. Well, I'm glad to have you here, and I'm glad to have you on our show. But tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are. And welcome, everybody. If you're on, say hello. I'm really excited about this show. I'm excited to hear your story and what you've got going. I've heard from a lot of people. So.
Yeah. So, I'm originally in the entertainment industry. And I got in cannabis, first was exposed to cannabis from listening to Snoop Dogg. So, in 1990, I think it was 92, 93, when, Dr. Dre and the Chronic came out, and then Snoop Dogg and Doggy Style, that sort of led me to experiment with cannabis. And, it sort of got my creative juices flowing. And next thing you know, I was like, I want to be in music. And I'd say about a couple of years later, I ended up in Los Angeles, California, bumping into some of these people I was listening to. My way into the music industry, and eventually producing songs with people, Tupac Shakur's recording group and other people. And so I decided to launch my own record label. I figured I got all these contacts in the music industry, and, I ended up being pretty good at making beats and, just networking. And so I ended up basically connecting with all the legends on the West Coast, and I launched my own record label. And although I was living in Utah, I was working out of Los Angeles. And so, there's not a lot of music acts in Utah, especially, those big of acts. And so I sort of put the crosshairs on my back from the people, the local authorities here in Utah. And so I was bringing Snoop and them out here. I was bringing Mac Dre out here. And, sort of got the local authorities interested in what I was doing. We made a Snoop Dogg video called A Little More Dope to Smoke, and they somehow got the raw footage to that video and seeing that we were smoking weed. And, I don't think they liked the idea of that, hip hop weed smoking culture, being brought to Utah on that big of a level. And so, and so they sent an informant to kind of see what we were doing, asked him to purchase some cannabis just to try to, make his way into the circle and see what was going on. And all he ended up getting was $300 worth of cannabis on three occasions. And so with that, a federal prosecutor was able to take those transactions and create a 20-count federal indictment where I was facing 105 years of mandatory imprisonment if convicted at trial. Yeah, they weren't playing. And so my attorney basically found out that they were hoping that putting pressure on me would lead to the prosecution of famous rappers like Snoop Dogg. And when they realized that wasn't going to happen under any circumstance, we were forced to go to trial. And and so we went to trial. We contested a lot of the charges because they put a bunch of phony enhancement charges that were not true. And so we went to trial and we won some of them, but we lost some. So I ended up with a 55-year mandatory minimum. And the judge, I had a very conservative George W. Bush appointee who, scared us. We thought, okay, he's going to give me, my minimum was 55, and he could have given me up to 65. And so we were worried, about it because this judge wasn't good for our trial. Like, he denied us on our evidentiary rulings and suppression hearings. And so, but we were shocked that he ended up calling this punishment cruel, unjust, and irrational. And he did something no federal judge had ever done, and that was call on the president to commute my sentence as he was sentencing me. So yeah, so he literally said, while I have to impose this unjust sentence, I call on the president to commute it to something more just. And so it was shocked. The legal community was going crazy when they heard this. And so my judge also reached out to Congress. And, after he sentenced me, he went and testified before the Senate about changing mandatory minimums. And so, it was amazing what this judge did. And when I lost all my appeals, he did something unusual, and he stepped down from the bench because of it. This is a lifetime appointment to the federal bench. It's a very prestigious job, and he walked away from it. He said he didn't want to be a part of a system that did this to people, and basically it hurt his conscience. It bothered him for years, and so I think I was in my 12th year of imprisonment. 12th year of imprisonment. He went on ABC Nightline for the first time and was like, I have to go public because this is eating me up. And he revealed that he had actually driven by the prison I was at a few times just to see where I was living because of what he was forced to do. And he said it's haunted him. And so he actually, when we created this campaign while I was in prison, me and my sister, to get me out when Obama was elected. And we had Senators Mike Lee and Rand Paul and Cory Booker and a few others. And we had celebrities like Alicia Keys and Bonnie Raitt. And Judge Cassell was a part of that coalition. And so he wrote President Obama a letter basically clarifying that had he had the discretion, I would have already been released from prison. And so I think that letter, with the support of everyone else, I think was really what did it, because a few months later I was home.
Gave me goosebumps, but it really sickens me that this is happening and that this is what we're battling in our court system, right? As you were on this journey, what are some of the things that you discovered and found, whether in court, how many other citizens, I guess, or people, victims, how many people are falling victim to our criminal system with the battle of drugs and non-violent drug charges? Yeah,
I mean, drugs won the war on drugs. So, we need to move past that and understand that. And, one of the things I've learned, multiple things that I've learned, but one of the, my worst fears were realized that people in our justice system aren't, these honorable, noble people. I had a prosecutor that wanted to take away my life because I wouldn't cave into his pressure. And we had investigators that were okay with trumping up charges and actually lying on the stand, altering police reports, because they look at us as they look at this as a real war, because it's a drug war. They call it a war, but they look at us as free game. They look at us as enemies in a war, and that all options are open, and winning means everything. And so they looked at me, and I was the enemy. So they were okay with taking literally something I would have gotten probation for in the state of Utah. They turn that into a life sentence in the federal system because they have more tools in the federal system. Our federal system is so draconian that they give prosecutors these options where they can design your indictment in a way where you're never coming home. And they can do it to almost anyone. All they need to do is put pressure on witnesses, and those witnesses will say whatever they want them to say. And that's what happened in my case. And so that's the problem with the federal system. And that's why you see other, individuals in there for cannabis cases that are serving life sentences, that are serving 22 years. There's a guy in Modesto, California. He got 22 years for operating a legal medical dispensary in California, Modesto. So it was under the California initiative. He got indicted, I think, in 2008 at the tail end of the Bush administration. And he got 22 years for following state law. And he was following state law to the T, but it's still illegal federally. Mm-hmm. So they can pick on whoever they want and go after them, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And so, we were able to get his co-defendant out through a presidential commutation of sentence, but they denied his commutation because he made a rap video saying F the feds. And so that shows you how petty these people are. We filed a presidential commutation for both of them. There was Ricardo and Luke, and they both got 20 plus years mandatory. And they granted Ricardo's because he was the quiet guy that just went along with everything. And Luke was the more outspoken activist. He made the video, saying F the feds and all that stuff. And so, that's how petty they are. They said, okay, we'll let him go, but we're keeping him in here because he's the loudmouth. And he's already been in there 12 years. Like, come on, like how much time do you need to serve for following state law?
Well, and I think it goes both ways, right? We get people that are over sentenced and under sentenced big time.
Well, I think the problem is that it's backwards. So they'll give child molesters, they'll give rapists, they'll give them small sentences, and then they'll give the marijuana offender or the drug offender these long sentences. And so they need to, use these resources instead of locking up people for drug cases. They need to use the resources for, the violent people where there's victims in the case, financial victims, physical victims. Because I believe if no one was victimized, no one was harmed physically or financially, there shouldn't be any prison even on the table. And so, we need to find a way to deal with, these types of criminal offenses using something else than prison. I mean, for one, I think drugs should be decriminalized altogether. But for far as the other crimes that are related to them, I think needs to be another way to deal with that.
So along this mission, tell me or your path, right? You said something earlier that we were able to get somebody out. You've now created a foundation to help in this mission, right? Tell me a little bit about this and what does it look like and how do we get involved?
Yeah. So when I got out 4 years ago, I hit the ground running. I started working immediately with the Koch brothers, who were also my biggest supporters. I started working with Senator Mike Lee and Cory Booker and Van Jones, and we went to the White House. We started working with the Trump administration on criminal justice reform. And I think like 18 months into that relationship, we passed the first comprehensive federal criminal justice reform since 1970 called the First Step Act. And the First Step Act was amazing. And it's given us tools to help get people out using what's called compassionate release. And so when we were at the White House celebrating this, I realized that although this law we passed is amazing, it doesn't directly benefit those who are in there for purely cannabis cases. It can benefit them procedurally, but just as a group, as a category, it doesn't say, okay, if you have a cannabis case, you get less time. So that's why I decided to found a nonprofit. And our first initiative was Mission Green. And Mission Green focuses exclusively on those who are in there for cannabis cases. And my nonprofit's called the Weldon Project. So we do various things. Like we just recently got out former bad boy rapper Loon, and that was through the Weldon Project. But Mission Green is an entity that worked to get Luke's co-defendant out. That's working with the White House to get other people out who are like Luke. And so in February, we met with the White House and their staff about commuting these individual sentences. If you got a cannabis case, you're low level, you're not cartel, if you fit this criteria, they're going to look at commuting their sentence this November. And so at that meeting, we promised to follow up with the list. And so we're putting together a list now, and we're going to submit that to the White House. And we're hoping in November to see a bunch of those individuals released. However, we can't commute our way out of this problem because there are thousands of people in there. And so the Congress has to legislate a fix for this. And so, but in the meantime, my nonprofit is working, on the individual level. We're picking up individual cases and we're advocating for their freedom. And when they get out, we're also trying to pair them with jobs in the cannabis industry. There are individuals, in California that, we're working with Caliva and other companies like that to get them back in the industry that they know best. And so that's what the Weldon Project and Mission Green does. And we also work with cannabis companies as far as our funding mechanism, because we believe the cannabis industry should be funding this initiative because they're out there making millions while the people who laid the groundwork like Luke are still in prison, suffering the effects of prohibition. And so, they should be benefiting from the legal industry.
You brought something up is those that really laid the ground before now have really had targets on your backs. You really have.
And Luke's story was one of those stories that helped move the needle in favor of full legalization in California and other states. These, horror stories, basically, push the needle in favor of legalization. And so because of that, we need to support them. They paid the ultimate price. and lost, over 2 decades of his life. And so, because he stood up to fight them, he could have laid down and took a plea deal and he would have been home right now. But he fought them at trial. He took them to trial and risked his, 22 years rather than taking the easy way out, the plea deal, because he wanted to bring attention to this, to try to create some change. And so, while he helped create change, he lost a decade plus, or 2 decades of his life.
So how do people get involved? What does it look like to be involved with your organization or to support you?
Yeah, and so we work with companies and individuals. Individuals can either, they can donate directly, or they can, promote our cause. But for companies, we do a number of different programs. We have a sticker program where cannabis companies can, put these Mission Green stickers on their products, and then a percentage of the sales goes to Mission Green. We're also doing a big packaging deal with Koch Supply Co. And any cannabis or CBD company can buy this Mission Green packaging, and 50% of the sale goes directly to Mission Green. And so Koch is basically allocated $1 million worth of packaging, and they're going to try to sell all of it and give half of it to Mission Green. And so that's something that launches in the next couple of weeks. So that's a really exciting program. And so, basically, we need funding to do this hard work. And, the more, the more we have, the more resources, the more people we have working for us, the more we can do. Because we've done a lot of this with a very small staff, and, it's sort of been a one-man show for a while, but we want to expand. People are seeing results. They're seeing we're getting people home. We're also working and really close to having Sean Worsley out of jail. And so we're working with his family and his lawyers and team behind the scenes to try to get him resentenced to community confinement, basically house arrest, to get him out of prison. So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that it is not the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes. It's not recognized, right? That these legal battles are long, hard hours and a lot of work, and it costs a lot of money, right? That one person out is not an overnight job. Like you said, you've been out for 4 years now and have been up to the White House a number of times. You've met with a number of people all over the nation. And how many overall have you guys been successful in releasing?
I mean, we've actually gotten a lot of people out, but some of the cases, we got out using the court system, and those, aren't really ones that make the news, because it's just a legal mechanism. They get out and they go on with their life, and we usually work with an attorney, and then the attorney, gets the credit. We don't promote it. We don't advertise our success, except, the Loon thing was different. The Sean Worsley thing's different because, that's a big case. And some of these cases don't have any media attention. And so they just get out and they go on with their lives. And some of them don't want to work in cannabis. They don't want to advocate. They just want to get their family back and move on. And so, and a lot of the work we do is behind the scenes. For instance, the Sean Worsley, we're not out there, promoting it, because we have to be quiet, and we're working behind the scenes back channels to try to get him out, using our Koch connections, our Republican connections to work on that. And a lot of these are done behind the scenes. The Loon thing was, one of the ones that was really personal for me, because, I've been working on it for 19 months, and I had met with the president for him, and he actually approved his case for release, but then coronavirus hit. And so it kind of shelved it. So I had to get him out a different way. And so a lot of the work we do is unrecognized, but we are actually working on a number of cases, and we've had a number of successes. And the bigger our organization can grow, the more we can do, because we are in a position to get this done. We're uniquely suited because we work with the White House, we work with governors across the country, we work with lawmakers, we work with the best attorneys in the country. And so the better suited our nonprofit is, I think the more good work we can do.
I 100% agree with you. And I think this goes to, we talk about this all the time on our show. We have to be a community, right? We together are going to rise, or we're going to sink. And right now is our chance to step in and really make change. And one person will not be as successful as joining together. I always say that, the reason we built this organization and are doing what we're doing is to support associations and organizations like yours, so that when we have somebody that comes to us and says, hey, we really need help with somebody, or we've got some legal issues, or we want to help with reform and change some rules and laws, I want to be able to direct people and connect people to you. And utilize our networks to strengthen the industry. So what does that look like as far as people getting involved? How do they reach you? And is there what if somebody has a case that they need looked at or want to get involved, as far as people to come to say they know a family member or somebody that's in prison?
Yeah, we get that every day. And so if someone wants to help, there's a number of ways you can help. You can go on the weldonproject.org and you can sign up to be a volunteer, or you can donate directly. You can share our donation page, and you can reach out to us on Instagram at Project Mission Green, at Project Mission Green, basically. And you can either send us a message on the website or on the social. And so we've had a number of people, when they've seen our successes, reach out to us. And while we can't help everyone, I think, you know, the more we grow, I think we're in a better position to help the most as possible. And if we can't, we can refer them to someone, because, you know, we're trying to stay focused on the cannabis cases, because we believe that these individuals should not even be considered criminals. You know, they're entrepreneurs. They may have been in the wrong state, or, you know, at the wrong state at the wrong time. You know, like, for instance, you know, people were prosecuted in California, and now it's legal. And so we're trying to get them out and get their convictions expunged, because they should be, you know, looked at as an entrepreneur, not a criminal or a felon.
Right. Well, and to be clear, it's not a free all, right? It's not a free for everybody. I understand that there are rules, and there are probably people that deserve restrictions, right, due to unsafe actions. How about that? But I'm with you in the sense of, the more people that we get on board to support, and if you know somebody out there that is able to support, let's connect, because the more success we have at decriminalizing cannabis, the more opportunities we have to really change our economy and change our world, I believe. COVID has opened a lot of opportunities for this. And I don't know what you said that it's kind of put some things on hold for you, or did on some cases, but in general, do you feel like in the industry itself, opportunities have opened up since the pandemic?
Definitely. I mean, I got loan out because of COVID. And so, you know, COVID opened the door, because now courts are looking at it like, okay, I gave you a drug sentence, not a death sentence. And so, you know, if a judge looks at, I gave you a 10-year sentence, you're at your 8th year and you might die, you know, I didn't intend for this. So I'm going to re-sentence you, you know, to, if I known the pandemic was coming, I would have sentenced you so you got out right before it. So they've been basically re-sentencing people and letting them go because of that. And so I think the pandemic has opened, I think it's made federal judges look at sentencing differently. And so, yeah, there have been probably, since the pandemic, I think there have been like 800 compassionate releases from federal judges. And I think, you know, there have been a variety of individuals released, but, you know, one of the factors that judges look at is this person a threat to society? Because obviously, you know, the justice system should all be about public safety. And so if we're not making the public safe, what are we doing? Why is this person in jail? If it doesn't solve a problem by keeping Loon in jail a couple more years, does that solve a problem? Of course not. Let him go. And so, you know, we need to be using these resources where the law enforcement really needs it. You know, they need to end this drug war, end this, you know, always trying to look for something in someone's car, trying to smell in their car, see if they got weed. Let's focus on keeping us safe and people who are out to harm us, rather than having some drugs. So I think people should be able to do what they want with their bodies. I think if you want to, you know, smoke weed or use some other drug, you should be able to, as long as you're not harming someone else in the process. I think the government should stay out of that. That's my opinion.
Well, and there's definitely a piece where accountability has been lost, right? I understand if I'm shoving it down your throat, that's a problem.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
At what point are you accountable for taking it and consuming it? You know,
absolutely, personal responsibility, for real.
You know, there is definite accountability, and that we are in control. And so Justin brought something up, or Hempback Tracker, a friend of ours, Justin, just brought something up, and I want to ask before I share his comment. What do you see as far as need for help in the industry with hemp and people being charged for cannabis? You know, what do we need to do collectively, or what are you guys doing as an organization for that problem?
Are you saying so people are being charged having hemp and being charged as cannabis?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I know I've heard of some cases where someone had cannabis and they said, well, it's hemp, and they had to let them go because they can't tell the difference. And so that I didn't realize that could create a problem on the other side. If someone has actual hemp and they can get charged for cannabis because they can't distinguish the two.
Yeah. So Justin, I'll connect you guys, but he said we'd love to collaborate and learn more about how we can help avoid the hemp cases turning into cannabis cases, especially from the viewpoint of people that have been affected by it already. I know just recently there was an arrest in Wyoming that made the news. There was a large group growing hemp, and they were arrested and had thousands of pounds seized because it was cannabis, because it tested hot. It was like 1% THC. So yeah, I'd be interested in moving that kind of conversation along and exploring it a little bit, because it's definitely a topic that comes up a lot as we focus a lot on hemp growth, that, you know, the growth of hemp and manufacturing and distribution. And by the way, hi, John.
Hey, welcome. I'll catch up. I didn't realize it was a gray shirt day.
Ah, you guys got them. Oh, I'm white, but I guess we got the memo.
I'm gray. Is this gray? Yeah, it's gray.
Anyways, Weldon, John Weldon.
Nice to meet you, Weldon.
Hey, John, nice to meet you.
Yeah, so I would be curious, because I think that that's a concern even on the legalization side of flower, say hemp flower in Utah, and the arrests that happen because the lack of ability to test on the site on whether or not it's actual cannabis or hemp. And what I guess where I'm even more concerned is intent to grow. You know, if we're growing with the intent of growing hemp and it goes hot to say even 1%, it's still not really with the intent to sell or distribute cannabis, but
Right.
it's considered cannabis at that point. It's a hot crop.
Yeah, Utah's got some issues with its hemp laws anyway. You know, you should be able to smoke hemp if you want to. We should be able to sell hemp in jars. So we're definitely, you know, out of whack for that. So because I know, you know, a number of people that want to sell hemp here, and they're like, why can't we sell, you know, jars? You can't even smoke hemp here, and it's federally legal. It's crazy. So yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
What does it look like in other states? You know, what are you seeing outside of Utah compared to what's inside Utah? You know, I hear a lot of comments about, you know, there's a lot of big farms in Utah, and what I see outside of Utah trumps the size of distribution or growth.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
So what's your opinion as far as what are other states doing that you see that's working, or what do you hear that's working versus not?
Yeah, well, I think Utah, and I don't know if the other states, Idaho, I think there was only a couple states that are actually not fully following federal law. You know, federal law legalized hemp, and, you know, we should be able to sell it in any form. You know, it should be smokable, because a lot of people smoke hemp cigarettes to quit smoking, you know, nicotine or whatever. And so I think it's actually a benefit if the state allows, you know, hemp cigarettes. And so I think there's some room to challenge, you know, the state in federal court over that. And I believe JD, the lawyer, he's a friend of mine. I think he's working on that, and I really hope he succeeds.
Oh, well, shout out to him. We'll stand right behind him, because I think that that's a valid argument for sure. Anyways, how's football been, John?
Random.
Oh, I haven't seen you for a while. I wanted to touch base.
Oh, no. Things are great. Things are awesome. Yeah. It's going to be interesting with COVID and everything. Just how life begins again. With new regulations, so it'll be fascinating.
Man, I think we're going to do online school this year. I heard that kids, if you're exposed to COVID, that you cannot play sports, and so I'm not positive about that, but I am curious to see how it goes for the sake of our volleyball team. I think we're going to do online school and then let her play, but we'll see. Anyways. Yeah, I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad to see you. But
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everybody who's joined us today. If you are on and say hello, please drop a note. I will make connections. If you guys have any questions for Weldon, don't hesitate to drop a note. I have a question. As you grew your business, Weldon, and your board, what did that look like? When did you realize that, you know, you're really ready to build your board out, and how big is your board? And you're represented nationally and globally? Nationally?
Yeah, so when I first had this idea, I reached out to one of my partners who I used to work in the music industry with, and so he was a fellow producer. He had done a lot of big records. He even done some movies, the Matthew McConaughey Lincoln Lawyer movie. So he did the soundtrack for that. And so, he had experience with, racial profiling in California, or being a rich black guy driving a $150,000 Benz. And so, he had been pulled over and harassed about the odor of marijuana. He doesn't even smoke. So, when after we passed the First Step Act, we both had, talked about this issue. And so we said, let's go big and let's focus on it. And so he became my co-founder, and we immediately reached out to entertainers to be on our board of advisors. And, one of the first people we put on our board was NBA Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett. And so Kevin Garnett was on our board. We have a number of filmmakers and other people. But like I said, we're still small and we're just in the process of growing. And I think this Kush supply code deal is going to allow us to expand our staff and really, help us kick this off, because it's really been a one-man show for the last 2 years. But we're ready to expand and just really kick some ass and get more people home and raise some awareness, because, we're, like I said, we're uniquely suited. We work with the White House, we work with governors, we have, the entertainment industry behind us, and, we're working to get other people on our board like Ty Dolla $ign and, potentially Snoop and other people that are interested in this cause, to try to get them and use their influence to help us make change. And, and we're diverse because we work with conservatives too. And, I got a lot of conservative friends. And so, we work behind the scenes with them, and they do a fabulous job at helping with this. And so we're happy now that the Koch network supports legalization. So that's, a big help for sure.
Well, and it says a lot, there's a power of influence that comes with this. And it really is, I'm impressed by how you've put it together. I'm in that process right now. We're in that process right now. And it's hard. It's hard with especially not being able to travel and meet people face to face and figuring out where everybody fits. And unlike any other drug or industry, cannabis is in everything and everyone, and it's everywhere. You get high profile people and people that are just starting their careers, right? That are consuming or using or have fallen victim to a court system error. That's what I'll call it. It really is we have been so misinformed for so long about the effects of cannabis or the wrong, we've been miseducated.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. What something I'm really passionate about, and that has really come up often as we're growing our association, is education. What are you guys doing, or what do you foresee in the future as far as education? I feel like you guys have done a really good job at building this powerful influence. How do we bridge the gap?
As far as, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
That's okay. I guess first, what do you see in the future as far as education from your organization, or has that been something that's been discussed and talked about? And when I say education, almost from bridging the gap from the other side, or how do you bridge that gap from those of influence to those that are not, right?
So we primarily focus obviously on freedom, because there's nothing more important than freedom. And then those that are getting out, we want to make sure they, can be successful, because if someone gets out of prison and, they're in the same position they were in when they went to prison, they're likely going to go back to prison. Because the system just, recycles us, and they set us up for failure. So, we want them to get out and be successful, whether or not it's in the cannabis industry. We want them, because all of us, we represent each other. So if I got out and I went right back to prison, I would make everyone else look bad. And so people are like, oh, maybe we shouldn't change the system, because look what happens. And so, and really reentry starts on day one, but the prison doesn't provide enough programs for people to get out and be successful. And so that's something that we're trying to focus on. We're trying to pair people with companies that want to hire them, pair them with, resources and just ways to get them to succeed. And so, we primarily focus on that. We're also creating a reentry program, so when they get out, that they can have these resources, have accesses to, education and just quality jobs where they can actually get out and make a decent living, and they don't have to go back to, what they were doing before.
I love it. I love it. What types of jobs are you seeing in the cannabis space that are highly sought after, or that you've been able to even place in?
We'll see a lot of people, when they get out, and I don't blame them. A lot of people want to be CEOs. They want to get out immediately and have their own business and make $1 million. And so, we're trying to get those who are, in the traditional market, when they get out, we want to get them in the legal market and let them, start out at whatever, fits their particular experience. And so like Luke, for instance, he'd get out, he'd be able to jump right in Kaliva at a high level position because he was the CEO of a pretty big size medicinal dispensary. Now, if it's someone else who is more in the traditional market, didn't have access, he wasn't actually in the legal industry, that we would probably start, at a lower level and kind of work their way up.
Sure.
And eventually help them get licensing. We're working also with Cresco Labs, and we're going to try to develop something with Cresco where we can get people out and get them licensed if they have the skills and the want to actually do it. That we can help get them in a licensed or get them a license and get them the resources to be able to actually be successful. Because a lot of people get a license and it just sits there. They don't have the funding, they don't have the experience, the expertise to do anything with it. So the license just sits there and goes away. So we basically want to help, get them the resources they need to actually be successful and maintain the license and, be competitive.
I love this. Well, I want to help you in this mission specifically. We get a lot of people that come to us with questions and jobs. Is there a way to educate about the cannabis industry in the prison system? Have you?
Yeah, not in the federal system, just because the federal system treats it, like it's illegal. And one of the problems is we have people in federal prison that are coming home. We can't get them in cannabis positions because they're on federal probation. And so federal probation would make it a crime for them to work in the industry. And so we have to deal with that a different way. And so with the state guys, it's no problem. But with the federal guys, we might be able to get them a job at like a corporation that's, in cannabis, but not at an actual dispensary or facility. And so that's the difference.
So Justin made a comment earlier I wanted to share. Iowa bans smokable hemp flower to ease the burden of false positive flower with medical use cannabis. So I think that the legalization or banning of hemp flower, I mean, it's definitely a concern as far as the false positives for testing, right? And then do you feel like the White House has federal legalization on the horizon? I actually saw an article about that.
Yeah, so based on my conversations with the White House when we were there, they were more of the position that if it gets to us, we'll sign it. And they were definitely supportive of the States Act. This is when they were working with Cory Gardner. And I think the president would sign a legalization bill. I don't know if he would sign the MORE Act, but I definitely think he would sign the States Act.
Interesting.
And so it's not something I think they're going to push right now because because of the protests, Trump got pushed into that law and order, mindset that he was in before, with Stephen Miller really in his ear. And they're trying to sow discord between Jared Kushner and Trump because Jared Kushner has really been the driving force behind all the reform. And so Jared Kushner's office has been great on this. And I think, we need to, make sure Jared's successful in that endeavor because he has a lot of people that are trying to push Trump away from that, so all his, hard law and order folks in there, Stephen Miller being the main guy.
Interesting. I am not educated on this piece enough at all. I need to be.
Yeah. I need to grab my charger. Hold on. My computer's going to die.
You're all right. No worries. Nice question. I appreciate those. Keep them coming. And Tana, I'd love to support you in help. I think that it would be an awesome give back and something I'm really passionate about as well. So John, what else has been new? Where's Ryan?
What's what?
Where's Ryan traveling to?
He's in Arizona today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's he's getting approved on a huge partnership for a physical device that will actually allow you to process cards and payments, which is exciting. I've been busy with our networking association, the Champion Circle. We've launched. We're almost filled up to our first group, and we're continuing to grow. So that's been my main biz.
Nice. Excellent. Tana was saying earlier while you were gone that she would love to help with a reentry program. she understands personally how successful or how hard it can be. And so she'd be a great resource. She's very well connected and supported in the industry.
That would be cool. Yeah, reentry is very, very important. So, because if you don't have good reentry when you get out, you're doomed to go back. And so, because the system, one thing about the federal system that's unique, state systems provide parole, where you get out on parole early and you serve the rest of your sentence on parole. But once your sentence is complete in the state, you're free. The federal system took away parole, created supervised release that's on top of your prison sentence. So you have to complete your whole sentence and you get out and you got to serve what's sort of like parole, but you don't get a time off like the state. And so they keep you in the system longer. And so they make it really difficult to succeed. They have a lot of, restrictions, and it's just really tough and really easy to go back. So
interesting. Yeah, I'm fascinated learning about this stuff. So what's some advice you'd give somebody that's just getting into the cannabis industry? What would be a piece of advice you give them, seeing the business and understanding the legal ramifications? And
yeah, well, I mean, I always tell people definitely that it's still illegal federally, just to keep that in mind, that the federal government can prosecute anyone at any time when there's nothing anyone can do about it. They could literally walk into a dispensary in Colorado or California and indict everyone in there, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And so as far as advice, as far as the industry, I'm still learning a lot. I recently launched a cannabis brand called Reform Cannabis with 2 E's. I put reefer and reform together. And so with Reform Cannabis, we launched in California in March. So we're actually growing. We're moving to Illinois, and we're hitting other markets like Michigan. And so we're looking to expand. And we did this in partnership with Koch Supply Co. And so a portion of the proceeds from Reform are going to go directly to the commissary accounts of people who are in prison for cannabis. So if you're sitting in prison for cannabis, this brand is going to provide commissary for you for the life of the brand. So that's something really exciting.
That's really cool. And Landon, thank you very much. It's good to see you on here.
Landon's my brother.
Oh yeah?
My buddy, yeah.
He's a good man. Good man. I have a question about your packaging. If for companies that are interested in purchasing packaging, who are you looking to connect with, and how do people look if they want to actually buy the packaging part?
Yeah, they can either contact us or they can contact Koch Supply Co., which won't be available, for at least 10 days. We're going to have a big press release. But basically, we're creating jars, cones, tubes for joint tubes, blunt tubes and it's going to have Mission Green on it. And so this packaging, you buy the packaging with the Mission Green logo, it can still be branded. It's really small logo. And then with that packaging, we're getting 50% of that sale. So Koch is basically losing money and donating it to Mission Green. So it's a really big partnership. We're really excited about it. It'll be the biggest donation of any cannabis company. It's worth almost $500,000 if we sell all the packaging. And so it's really cool. Koch is really dedicated, and we're really excited that they chose our organization.
Well, if you'll share that information with me, I would love to share it here as well. I would love to even send something out to anyone on our list to see if we can help support you. I would love to help sell those out right away, because I think, like you said, it's a great boost. And anybody else that's looking to get involved to support this mission, right? Please don't hesitate to reach out. We've said all the time that, as the tide rises, all boats rise, and we need everybody's support, right?
Absolutely. And one thing that I would ask people, like if they're looking to support a nonprofit that's in this space, I would ask them to choose us, because one thing unique about Mission Green is we are run by people who have directly been negatively impacted. So we're not founded by some rich, elite individual. We are actually the people who have been harmed by this. And so we know we're better suited and uniquely positioned to champion the system and champion a change. And so I would, ask them to support Mission Green.
You say, you're right, you are. And I compare this to being a parent. I always joke around that the best parents are always the parents that don't have kids. Just ask them, right? And it's the same thing in the legal system. If you don't know how to navigate the legal system, it's very hard to figure out. And not ever being in it, how do you figure it out? And so I think that you guys, like you said, being negatively affected, you get it on a compassionate level. And I think that that's the most valuable piece is you understand you're not in it for the money. This isn't about a quick buck. This isn't about, putting people away that deserve it or freeing victims that don't. It really genuinely is a compassion piece. I think that.
Yeah. My friend said it the best. He said the people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And so, and that's that stuck with me, so the first time I heard that. And so I felt like, I'm one of the people closest to the problem. So, we have the solution because we understand the problem better than anyone. And so, we're definitely unique and authentic because, everyone, all the co-founders have been impacted directly. So.
Absolutely. Well, somebody made a comment that I've said a couple of times that Trump would be very successful with protesters if he reformed cannabis. There's been a few times during I think if he legalized cannabis, I think his chances would skyrocket. And his advisors don't see it that way. They're really pushing him away from that right now. And I think, there's a number of things he could do that would increase his chances. And I don't know why he's not doing it. It's funny. Well, there've been a few times we've said, man, during these protests, if they would just drop a smoke bomb, just chill everyone out, help everybody relax for a little bit. How about hemp packaging? I would assume that the packaging can be used, or is there packaging that can be used?
Well, yeah, it can be used for anything. And so, we even have the pods or whatever for vaporizers. So there's a number of packages. I mean, it's limited to what they have, but these packaging that they identified is going to be all allocated for this program. And so, the sooner we get rid of it, the sooner we can have funding to go, do more work and go meet with the White House some more, bring our team out there and sit down with them and really come up with some solutions.
Okay, so I encourage everybody that's out there, let's try to find a way in our hemp and or cannabis space, right? Both. I always feel weird when I say that. It's cannabis in the cannabis industry, whether you're selling hemp or not, it's cannabis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But in the hemp space or the cannabis space, let's find a way to utilize their packaging so that we can either fund directly, donate directly, reach out and offer services directly, or, find a way and a solution for what you need, as well as being able to provide some resources to Mission Green.
Yep, absolutely.
Tana just said, call Muscle MX and ask them to buy packaging. I'll do that. I'll make that approach for you if you want, but Tana's actually really good at that.
I actually heard of them. I think we gave some of them out at our launch event. The Mission Green launch event was at the Weed Maps Museum of Weed last year. And so I think we gave some of those out, the Muscle MX. So
how do we stay involved with you? I mean, you travel a lot on a lot of different events. What are the main places you see in your future for events or press releases?
California and DC. Those are the two places. So, we're looking to go to DC to screen my documentary with folks from the White House and on the Democratic side. So coronavirus ruined it. We were going to have a big event before the election, screen my documentary, and have both sides talk about what they want to do on this issue. And so we're still going to try to do it. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we sure hope so.
Well, whatever we can do to support you there, I'm happy to do that. I'd love to support you. Here's another great opportunity. I'd like to connect on the volunteer side. We place injured workers and nonprofits to volunteers while their employer pays their wages. So if that's a volunteer and if an opportunity, I'd love to make the connection. So we have a section on our website that you can sign up for to be a volunteer. So we have a donation and volunteer. And so, we definitely could use all the volunteers we can get. And we can also help. We're also willing to volunteer ourselves if we can be helpful to benefit another nonprofit or individual. I'd be interested in collaborating on some education. However, we can utilize our platforms and as we grow with the media company to really promote what you're doing and help there. So I would love to see what we can do, and as often as you'd like or need to be able to come back on and share a message, especially as you're looking for additional support or as you see things that need to be addressed. Staying in touch so that we collectively or as a large group can really move the needle.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. So what do you see in the near future for the industry, for cannabis in general? What do you see?
I see more states going legal. They're definitely ahead of the federal government, but I'm hoping we're actually going to get behind an effort to get the MORE Act passed. And if the federal government passes the MORE Act, it's a really amazing piece of legislation. It works to repair the harms caused by prohibition, and it basically, it basically incentivizes states to create social equity programs and really give people like myself opportunities to get in the legal industry, before the corporate elite get a hold of everything. And so I really, am a big supporter of the MORE Act. And so I know we don't have a chance to get it passed, this year, but, we're really hopeful that next year will be an opportunity to pass that. I mean, it boils down to the Senate. So whoever takes the Senate is going to be really a deciding factor on the MORE Act.
Tell me a little bit more about the MORE Act. I'm not very educated there.
Okay, so the MORE Act basically, it basically has expungements for people who have been convicted for cannabis-related offenses, and it basically deschedules it in the federal system. So now, a lot of people say we want the federal government to fully legalize it. I don't know if the federal government is going to do a good job at that because it's already over-regulated in the states. Like California, it's crazy. Regulation is ridiculous. Taxing is ridiculous. And so having the federal government add a layer on top of that, because the federal government always does everything, much more complex than it needs to be. And so I don't really have much confidence in the federal government to legalize it. I would rather have them deschedule it and let the states, legalize it. And so, but by doing that, some states could keep it criminal in one state and the other state's legal. So that's a problem. And so the MORE Act actually incentivizes states to legalize it.
Interesting. Okay. I think decriminalizing it's the best thing we can do.
Yeah, I think descheduling it, removing it completely from the federal criminal code is the best thing in my opinion, because then you can vote with your feet. If you don't like your state, move. Right. You can vote with your feet and leave. But the bill does incentivize states to actually legalize it and to stop prosecuting people for sure. One thing I like about California is California can't criminally prosecute people if they get caught with black market or whatever. And so I really like that model. I don't think incarceration is the right way to deal with it, even for the people in the black market. I think it can be dealt with in a different way.
What do you see some of those solutions being?
I mean, just dealing with it civilly. I mean, definitely, if you're going to put someone in prison, it has to solve a problem and it has to make it safer. If it doesn't make it safer by putting someone in jail, they shouldn't be in jail. We shouldn't be spending resources on keeping that person in there. And so, yeah, definitely. Because most people affected by this are poor people. Brian Stevenson said it perfect. He said, the system treats you better if you're rich and guilty than poor and innocent. And that's certainly true.
I was sitting at an event one day next to an attorney who raised a large family, all very successful kids. And he was telling a story about how one of his boys got in some trouble and he went and hired an attorney and immediately was able to fight and get his son out of trouble. Cost a little bit of money, but was out of the system really quick. And he said his friend that was with him who didn't have legal counsel has been stuck in the system ever since. And he says, I feel bad for people that are in this specific class of people they're trapped, and they really are. They're taken advantage of, and once they get stuck in the system, just the number of classes. If you're struggling financially and you get a drug charge, and now you have to take classes, and you have to pay $40 or $50 each class. I mean, it's just this. Even on a very small scale, they get stuck, and it's hard to get out. And so, it's a sensitive subject for a lot of people.
Yep. And there's also the issue with bail. Bail reform is very a tricky issue. And a lot of people think that the answer to that is removing cash bail completely. And I think that is going to create the biggest problem we've ever seen, because you get rid of cash bail. Now you're at the mercy of a judge who may be biased or not. I think cash bail should be reformed, not repealed completely. I think, we should leave the cash option there, because you might have a biased judge that doesn't like you and says, you know what, I'm going to deny your bail and you're going to stay in prison until you finish your case. So, that's a very important issue. And a lot of states are just removing that aspect of it completely. And that's a problem.
Yes. So for Utah, what are your plans in Utah? Do you guys have anything that you're working on? Any projects specifically that you said you have one gentleman that your guys are working to get out of Utah?
No, he's out of Alabama. So,
Okay.
We don't really have many projects here, just because Utah is really not as reform friendly as other states.
Okay.
So but we definitely, if we find someone here that needs our help, we'll definitely get behind them.
Very, very good. Okay, well, I sure appreciate your time. My wheels are spinning about connections and how I can help. I am really interested in trying to help with the immediate sale of product or of your packaging. I think that it's an easy way for people to get behind what you're doing. So what a great opportunity. Shout out to, is it Koch packaging?
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Shout out. What a great partnership.
We'll be sharing the press release in the next week or two. So really excited for that. Program is going to be amazing.
Very cool. Well, as soon as you get it, I'll definitely share it as well. I'd love to chat about it again and follow up. Is there anything else that we can do for you specifically or your company?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we need help funding. And so if people can share our donation page and send people to the site to, look at our story, look at what we do, and support us.
Excellent. I did share the link on Facebook and YouTube. Weldon, if you need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. We have an AHA board meeting on Tuesday afternoon. I'd love for you to be involved. I'd love for you to sit in. It's just a Zoom meeting right now. We're not doing anything face-to-face, but as we're growing globally, it's really opened a lot of opportunities, and the need has just been more and more obvious. So I'd love to have you on board. I'd love to introduce you to people and get contacts out to people that can help support you and help grow your mission.
Yeah, send me the information.
Will do, for sure. Other than that, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thanks. No, I was going to say thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun. Please stay in touch. If you know of anybody else that would love to come on, we are opening our schedule again. I have a few spots available this month for interview on our live. So Weldon, I'd love to get the message out and continue to interview people on your team or people that you connect with and share your message and your story.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.